Guideline? The white signs? That's
I think I read it like 10 minutes ago. I don't know. I think
Okay, good morning, everybody. The time now is a little bit after 10 o'clock, and I officially declare the 2022 meeting of the Town of Webster in order. We're going to start this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's going to be led by Dee Blake, who is our most recently elected member of the Select Board. Dee, the flag is over here.
Yeah, I know. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah. Thank you. I just want to start as we traditionally do it, and as we're getting settled, with some recognition, because we all know, we live in Webster. Most people don't even know where Webster is, but we do, and that's the thing that really matters. And we recognize all the power that goes with living in a small town and the wonderful things that go along with it. So I want to just take a few minutes today and recognize volunteers and people in town who help make Webster as great as it is. So I'm going to start by asking if any of our veterans in town would stand for a moment. Whether you've served in the Army, the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, or the Merchant Marines, please stand to be recognized for your service and what you did to help us. Thank you for your service, and we should be reminded as we watch events go on worldwide that self-governance is an incredibly fragile situation, and we are thankful for what you've done to help us be able to come together as a town and exercise our rights. I also want to ask all our town volunteers to stand, and I'm not even going to try to list them all because there are so many, whether you serve on a board, a committee, helped out at the elections, just help out with any sort of volunteering in town. Would you just please stand for a minute so that we can see how everybody comes together for that? And again, thank you, because it's that spirit of volunteerism and spirit of community that helps us to be the great little town that we are. I also wanted to take a second to acknowledge the dedication of the town report. And if you did not pick up a town report, there are some available still on the side table here. And if you open it up to page 2, I think they're right inside the cover, you can see that this year's town report is dedicated as follows. It is the people in Webster that makes the community a home. This year, the town lost some very special citizens. The report this year is dedicated to 3 of those special citizens: Faith Anderson, Sindel Sue Roberts Donahue, and Robert Brown Jr., Senior. A very fitting dedication to our neighbors, and we appreciate that the Select Board made that selection, and to their families, we also just want to acknowledge their contributions to the town of Webster over time. Take a second, because some items may come up in the meeting today that are beyond the scope of what the town meeting can deal with. And so I would just remind you that, and ask to stand if anybody is joining us today, but we have our state reps, Margaret Kennedy and Natalie Wells. Are either of them here? And also our state senator, Harold French. Is Harold here? So again, there could be items that come up on the agenda today that need to be sent in their direction because they're more state level matters, and so those are our elected reps. I also just want to acknowledge that we have other guests with us today. We have a reporter from the Concord Monitor, and we had a photographer earlier, but I think he's doing the rounds today and is off to another meeting at this point. So I also want to just remind people that in the back of the room, Webster Fire Department is set up and they are issuing burn permits. So if you need to pick one up, they're right here, and you can have that accomplished today at town meeting. So I see Jake is back there, and I think Rob was back there also. So thank you for doing that. And now I'm going to introduce the chair of the Select Board, who is Dave Hemingway. Dave is going to introduce the rest of the board and the other town officials who are serving today. Dave?
Hi, Dave Hemingway, chair of the Select Board. And to my left, your newest re-elected member,
Normandy Blake.
And Marlo Herrick.
and Whoa, that got loud suddenly. And then for the town, we have town employees here as well. So over here is our town administrator.
Dana Hadley.
And if you would introduce our assistant, please.
I'd like to introduce my assistant, Russell Tadro, and the finance coordinator, Wendy Pinkham.
And you've already met many of the others, but of course down here we have our town clerk and our supervisors of the checklist.
Perfect. And I would be remiss if I didn't just issue a reminder, because I want to save anybody from embarrassment. Please silence any cell phones that may not be silenced so that we can conduct our business. If you just want to double check and make sure you have it in silent mode, please. All right, so next up, we're going to go over the rules of the meeting. And the rules appear in your town report on page 8. It is the first green page, so you can find and locate it fairly easy. The moderator's rules are straightforward. They're what we have used for many years in town. Remember that the whole purpose of this is to make sure that we have an organized and efficient meeting that is effective at accomplishing the goals we set, and making sure that every participant here today treats every other participant with respect and courtesy. That is why we have the rules. My job as moderator is to help people have their say, exercise their First Amendment rights, be able to speak. And here's how we're going to do that today. If you would like to speak to town meeting, you're going to queue along the wall and then come to the microphone that is at the front. Remember, your comments should be to me as the moderator, and then I will direct them to the staff or the select board or elected officials as needed in order to get answers for your questions. So, but if you want to speak, you simply queue up, and there's a little road area there that you can stand in. Paul has volunteered to help make sure the microphone is nice and sanitized in between people so that we can keep everything going in a nice orderly manner. So thank you, Paul, for doing that. I'm going to ask if there are any questions from the rules, and if there are not, I'd love to accept a motion to accept the rules as written and adopt them for the meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Dave Collins, seconded by Chris Shabler to approve the rules. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So the motion carries and the rules of the meeting are adopted. Next up, I'm just going to announce that it is my intent today to read the warrant fully at the start of the question, but not at the vote. The only time I would read the warrant article at the vote is if it had been amended, because I want to make sure people know exactly what they're voting on. So if there's an amendment, I'll read it at that time. Otherwise, if it's as printed, I won't read it the second time. Are there any objections to that procedure? That should save us about 3.5 minutes, so we'll proceed doing it that way then. Thank you. I also want to just remind people that the ballot box is here at the front of the hall. You can see that it is empty. We are prepared to have ballot votes if necessary today, but I would remind people that it may be best for us to have an efficient meeting and to beat the storm if we don't take the time of proceeding through with a ballot vote. So if it's a vote that is clear and something that we can do with card votes in the hall, I would encourage the town meeting to do that. However, it is up to the town meeting, and if a petition is received to have a ballot vote, we will proceed to do that. It will just slow us down a little bit today. I also would like to ask for voter approval today for town staff, town employees, and other folks who are with us today to speak. So if I could have a motion for our town staff and employees and others to speak, it would be helpful.
So moved.
The motion is made by, it looks like Paula Fanjoy, and seconded by Dave Richardson. Any question on that? All in favor of allowing our staff and employees to speak, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion also carries, and they'll be able to engage in dialogue with us as needed. I would remind you that when you come to the microphone, bring your yellow voting card. This is how everybody knows that you are checked in as a voter. And if you don't have one, because you're town staff or other, we'll just have to make sure that we understand that, right? So it'll differentiate who can vote and who cannot. And remember, when you come up, we need to have you clearly state your name and your address. so that everybody knows who you are speaking. And we had set up the library as an auxiliary room for those who prefer to be in a masked-only environment. I do not believe, Paul, am I correct, there's nobody in the library? There is one person in the library. Okay, so I just want everyone to be aware that there is a voter next door, and we will have that person engaged if necessary, but there is one person in the library, according to Paul. All right. A few other housekeeping things before we hit the warrant. So Nancy Pickthall French. Nancy, can you stand? You're here somewhere. Oh, there you are. And I also have Linda Clark. Linda's in the back. And Dave Richardson is in the back. I just saw Dave. Where'd he go? He's hiding. And they are assisting me today. So Linda and Nancy will be counting. If we have to do a hand count of votes, they're going to count sides of the room so that we can get an accurate count read off. And Dave is the deputy moderator, so if I fall off the side of the stage, Dave is going to run right up and take over. So we're good to go. But hopefully it'll be uneventful and we'll be okay. So thank you for agreeing to do that today. Yes. Correction, there's nobody next door. So everybody voting today is right here in the hall. Thank you, Paul, for clarifying that. And then finally, one housekeeping measure before we get into the warrant. So a correction to the minutes that appear on page 93 in your town report. So this is last year's town meeting minutes, and it was regarding the election results. In those election results, Jennifer Heath Stillwell was elected, Jennifer's down here, was elected as a supervisor of the checklist for a 3-year term, not a 1-year term as listed in the minutes. It was correct on the election day ballot, and the purpose was to fulfill the term of a vacant seat. But I just want to make sure that everybody's clear, and we now have made a new minute and a new record that it's a 3-year term for Jennifer. So, 10:15, we're ready to hit the warrant. We should be out of here well before high noon if we do this well. So I'm going to start off with warrant Article 1, which reads, to choose all necessary town officers for the ensuing year by ballot. I'm pleased to announce that on Tuesday we had 289 voters, and the election results are as follows. For moderator, a 2-year term, Mike Jetty with 247 votes. Selectman, a 3-year term, Normandy Blake with 245 votes. Supervisor of the checklist for 6 years, 261 votes went to Nancy Webster. For treasurer, 1-year term, Michelle Tremblay was elected with 253 votes. Cemetery trustee, 3 years, Matt Cummings was elected with 259 votes. Library trustee for 3 years, Marty Bender was elected with 256 votes. Trustee of the trust funds, Therese Larson was elected with 258 votes. So I'm going to ask all the newly elected officials to please stay behind at the end of the meeting. We'll do the oaths of office with the town clerk here at the front by the stage at the end of the meeting. And congratulations on all of your elections. Also, we had 17 same-day registrations, so 17 new voters in the town of Webster on Tuesday. So again, thank you for that. It brings our total roster almost up to 1,300, just shy of 1,300 voters in town. Warrant Article number 2. The voters were asked this question, and this was voted on by ballot on Tuesday. Are you in favor of the adoption of the Wetlands and Watershed Protection Ordinance, an amendment to the existing zoning ordinance as proposed by the Planning Board? That article was defeated at the polls by a vote of 187 against to only 96 in favor. So that warrant article did not pass. And I'm sure the Planning Board and Conservation Commission will take that under advisement, and I'm sure we'll see that back again someday. Who knows? All right. Now we're going to move on to the order of business today. And that is to begin with warrant article number 3. And warrant article 3 reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,637,400 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. A majority vote is required And the select board is recommending this article by a vote of 3-0. So we have a motion to bring it to the floor from Dave Hemingway, the chair, and that is seconded by Dee Blake, who is also on the select board, and Dave is the primary speaker and will address this warrant article.
Thank you. The members of the select board that you see in front of you were elected with a specific message to keep an eye on the budget while getting things done. We believe we've done that and that you'll agree. You can find a few highlights in the report from the select board in your town report. Overall, the operating budget is up less than 1%. For the past 2 years, the town has spent the unassigned fund to offset or artificially lower your taxes during the pandemic. Unfortunately, we won't likely be able to do so again this year at the same level unless we have unexpected revenues. But for a little more detail on the operating budget, without going line by line, we trimmed the items we could and expected to end up down year to year. That expectation included planned increases for employee compensation that will help the town come closer to competitive market salaries, new contracted services to better create records for emergency services calls, increases in shared services costs such as dispatch, long overdue increases for road work, adding employee dental coverage, as well as increases for this being a larger election year. With all of that, we still plan for the budget to decrease in size. However, as you're likely all painfully aware, the cost of goods, especially energy, has dramatically risen as of the new year. We also found that prior budgets didn't reflect the double contracts held with our assessors, only accounting for one of them, so we had to add a general assessing line to the budget. Those items drove last-minute increases to the budget, and in addition, we are now showing the highway block grant as an increase back to pre-pandemic values based on communication with the state. But that is both an estimate and a 100% revenue and spend match, so that won't actually affect your local property tax rate. Some other lines, such as the Energy Committee, aren't actually changes in the overall budget from last year's spending, but are putting things like municipal memberships in a more appropriate line item attributed to them. In total, we ended up with an increase of 0.7% for the operating budget, which should serve us well as we continue to work on moving projects forward and streamlining how the town runs. There is one correction that should be made to the budget at this point, and it was pointed out at the public hearing that the Pennacook Community Center no longer exists, as it is now part of the Concord Boys and Girls Club. However, that change did not make it into the budget as presented to you in the town report and that you would be holding now. As a result, before we opened discussion on this warrant article, I would make the motion to amend the budget by setting the Pennacook Community Center line item to 0, bringing the overall budget down to $1,636,900. Do I have a second from the board? Second from Dee Blake.
Thank you, Dave. So we have a motion, so we're shifting the motion now. We're talking about an amendment. The amendment is to reduce the operating budget by $500, which zeroes out the Pennacook Community Center line, and we're now at $1,636,900. Are there comments on that reduction? Kim, can you come up to the microphone, please? So it's really important, if you wish to speak, that you come up, because we are live streaming the meeting, and the only way to get good audio is to be here at the microphone. So thanks, Kim.
It's Kim Fortune, Tyler Road. Just for clarity, I noticed in this warrant, in that particular line, it said, in regards to the Pennacook Community Center, just for clarity, the last sentence underneath Pennacook Community Center, it said there was a donation planned, but as in the case with youth soccer, this donation will not be made unless requested. Could you please clarify that? And if in fact we're going to amend this budget, would it in fact be best to keep that appropriation in, not giving it to Pennacook Community Center, but recognizing that that could come to Webster children for the youth soccer? I am requesting it as written.
So what you read from is a descriptive context for the budget. It was not actually the budget, but some of those comments would have come from our town administrator as they wrote up those extra descriptions to help make it easier for folks to understand. So I'll go ahead and let Dana comment, but I believe at this point, since there isn't a Pennacook Community Center, that we actually couldn't donate to them. And the same is also true for the youth soccer, which is why that was removed as well.
We found out at the public hearing that the Pennacook Community Center was now Concord Girls and Boys Club. And we did not remove the 500 from the budget, which I should have. And the $500 frankly doesn't mean a lot to your tax rate, unfortunately. And it certainly is the intent, I believe, of the board to benefit Webster children. And so I guess I would just leave it up to the body if we want to leave that money in and dedicate it somewhere else. I'm not sure where that would be right now.
Other comments or questions on the amendment? Okay, so a yes vote is to reduce by $500, and it'll bring us to a new bottom line of $1,636,900. A no vote is to leave that $500 in, and then it would be available to the select board if they chose to spend it. Are you ready to vote? All in favor of the amendment to reduce, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The ayes do have it. So we are now talking about warrant Article 3, which is an amended operating budget of $1,636,900. Are there further comments, questions on the warrant article? Mr. Fanjoy, and then Mr. Collins. Hop in line, but he was faster.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roy Pandroy.
I don't think it's on.
There it is.
Yeah. My name's Roy Fanjoy, 36 Clothespin Bridge Road. There's my little yellow sticker. This budget was worked on since probably November. And as the chairman brought up, we did not anticipate the energy crisis that's going on. Everyone's feeling it. I know when I call 911, I want the fire engine or the police to be there. I want the potholes fixed. So what I'm asking is to amend this budget by $15,000. Now, yes, last year we received back almost $51,000 from the budget. So I believe in the board. They will watch it, and I'm asking for $15,000 more to be put into the general operating budget specifically for fuel, whether it's needed by the police department, the fire department, or the road agent. So, what's that figure?
I just did the math. So right now we have a motion to add $15,000, which brings us to $1,651,900, if I've done my math right.
Correct.
Is there a second to Mr. Fanjoy's motion for discussion? We have several seconds. We'll give it to, actually we'll give it to Zach Azura, so as a new member. So are there other comments or so forth to be made on this?
Oh, all right for me to sit down? I made
All
my
right.
motion.
Perfect. Now we're talking about the amendment again. So this is an increase of $15,000 to ensure that we have enough money for various energy, propane, gasoline, diesel fuel, you name it, it's all going up. So other comments on the amendment? He said, Roy, was the motion for energy costs or was it for?
Specifically for any type, gasoline, propane, For the buildings, it's energy, period.
And energy period, so any of those various energy,
Yep.
I mean, even electricity is going up, right? So
Yep.
it counts.
And even the road agent, if you need to fill a pothole.
Are we clear on the motion then? Okay. Are you ready to vote? Okay, so all in favor of increasing the operating budget by $15,000 to $1,651,900, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion is unanimous and it passes. So we now have an amended article still, and Mr. Collins has the floor.
Good morning, Dave Collins, Centennial Drive. A couple questions for the board. I know in there you talked about road project, but again, and I apologize, I wasn't able to make the budget hearing. I'm not able necessarily to make select board meetings. So my question is, what are your projects planned for this year? What do you said, do you have any specific projects? Is it just general maintenance? Or do you have any specific road projects? The reason I'm going, and I'll do a little follow-up. The reason I'm asking is because I've asked this of prior boards. When we come as town members, it's nice to see, this is our 5-year plan, this is our 10-year plan. And again, I know, and I'm sure Emma would validate that, we can say you're gonna do a project here in 3 years at this point, and then all of a sudden you had a catastrophic issue in this part of town, so it pushes the project out. But it's very challenging, as sometimes as a voter, to sit here and look at this and actually see what your plans are for major projects. I'm not just talking, I know sometimes you go things like road resurfacing and those are more clearer, but you talk about projects, but I really can't find much in this town report about that. So I'm curious what your plan is right now. What the plan is for 2022, if you have any major projects on the plan.
Okay, so just clarifying, it is only for future projects, not the ones that were already done with that, correct?
No, I'm talking about what your plan is for 2022 in this budget, because obviously you're going to spend some money, and then so I'll answer that. The other point is going forward, I think the information should be put into the town report, because I know you spent a lot of time putting together at least a long-range plan, even though it changes, but I still continue, I can't find it in here. So I guess my question right now is, what are you doing in 2022? Do you have any major projects you're doing in 2020? And if so, what are they?
Okay, thank you. Dana, can you please make a note that we should probably look at putting that into the future? Thank you. As for projects, I'll give you a couple basic or obvious ones, and then I'd like to ask Emmett to come up and answer further for you. Obviously, there is road preservation, is just generally maintenance of all of the roads. Last year, we dropped that, and this year we're increasing it again. Based on that, last year, rather than maintenance, we were doing construction of the road, and that was specific for Concord Drive. So that's going back this year. And we want to continue to build up the funds in both of those as time progresses, to make sure that even if we don't use all of it, we won't have to hit you with a gigantic tax bill if we need to take care of one road in the future. That being said, there's going to be a fair amount of that would go into White Plains Bridge and fixing that and the roads surrounding it. We wish that would have already been done by now, and there's a long saga to it that I won't go into. But that should be getting done this year. For further details and other major projects, I'd like to let Emmett come up and speak on that.
So I'll recognize Emmett next. For those who don't know, Emmett is our road agent, and so he would know the project.
So I guess where do you want to start? We can start on one end of town and go to the other, but hold on to your pocketbook. So, last year we did Concord Drive. The year before that, COVID hit. The selectmen put the binders on, didn't want to spend a lot of that money because they didn't know if they'd get the tax revenue. So we didn't do a major project. And my next major project that was supposed to happen, which this would be the third year, so 2 years back, was going to be from the clubhouse at Concord Drive towards the Cedar Mill Group, down around the corner down through there where it's so rough. We usually try to do 1,500 feet of new road. That's $150,000, $170,000 to do that. So that was supposed to be done a couple of years ago, and that is my plan to do this summer. And I have talked to the board, and that's supposed to be a go. We're gonna do some work on, which I call the dump road, which is the dirt part of Pleasant Street. So when we do our major bridge construction, Detour Road and Clothespin Bridge Road will be no-through traffic from Dingett's Corner up to Pleasant Street, because the bridge company's going to have that whole intersection used up. So my plan is to do some road preservation this summer down on the dirt part of Pleasant Street to open that up for sight distance so you can get the cars, because down at the very end towards Banjoy's and which we call Dingett's Corner is one-lane traffic, and get that opened up to get the traffic flowing up through there a better. And then last year we rented a rock pounder and went around and got a bunch of rocks that were sticking out beside of the road, and there's a few more of them to do while we have it to down there on the dirt part of Pleasant Street, because there's a lot of rocks to be pounded. And then, of course, there's always ditching to do. You've got good ditches, you've got good roads. So there some of the major projects to do this that I have on the agenda. And I have been working with Russell, and then before Russell, the other people on the CIP, so we do have kind of a plan together, but like Dave said, it could change this afternoon, who knows? So if anybody has any questions about any other projects, like Clothespin Bridge, well, I guess you gotta go, can I answer that?
Absolutely, do it.
Clothespin Bridge has been a disaster.
It hasn't yet.
And it's only been going on for 20 years here in town. We all know it was coming to this. This select board in Dana, with the state of New Hampshire and the engineers, have really put some effort into this. In the prior boards before these guys, these folks I should say, had put a lot of energy in working with the state as well, and that's well on its way. And if it came tomorrow, it wouldn't be soon enough, but we just got to hold on, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen, like Clothespin Bridge. It's going to happen, but it's a process, and these folks in the prior boards have put a lot of energy into making it happen. But
Thank you, Emmett. Any other questions on the warrant? We do need you to come up to the mic, please. Mike. Dave, are you satisfied?
I have no questions.
Perfect. You have other questions? Okay.
Mike Borick, 588 White Plains Road. I just want to update on Clothespin Bridge. My understanding is the money should be available this year, 2022. And so is that true? And are we planning, do we have someone contracted to do the work? And is that going to happen this year? Very simple.
Thank you for the question. So Clothespin Bridge has been going through the long slog of process of red tape forever. That is now finally culminated into a state approval of the project officially, and is officially in the 2023 state fiscal budget, which starts the second half of 2022. So we could see construction at possibly as soon as this summer. The engineering firm VHB has been working with us on that and has been handling the contracting and that sort of thing. We are actually expecting is it the second one in April? I believe our second select board meeting in April is a full information session that will be presented by the engineering company. And so they will have all of the full details and further dates for us at that time.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Collins?
So thank you for answering that. I appreciate that. And again, kind of what I covered, it would just make life a lot easier, and I appreciate going forward. Another question I have is this: what are your plans with the public safety building with the basically what do you call it, the
pad?
The pad in front? And the reason I ask is I'm chair of the Joint Loss Management Committee for this town and have been for many years, and I bring it up to board after board after board, and I know prior to COVID it was brought up and there was some maybe issues with planning it or whatever, so it kind of got dropped, and it's continued to be dropped. And I'm going to tell you something. Anybody can go over in there. That is a very unsafe area, and the problem is, particularly this time of year, it's bad enough in the summer because we've had people roll their ankles in it with the fire department, but it's getting worse and it's not getting better. And I know Emmett does these temporary fixes with some ledge pack to kind of fix it, but the reality is the board has got to address that. And if you're not addressing it in this budget, in future budgets, you need to address that because that thing is not going away, it's getting worse, and it's a huge liability for the town. And I keep reporting this to the board, and I just really never get much back. And I know Dana sits on the board as well with the town administrator. I know that gets passed along, but I got to be honest with you, that needs to get addressed like soon, because that is, I mean, that's the Clothespin Bridge Road. As people go across Clothespin Bridge, big holes in that. Come to see over in front of the pad in front of the fire station. There's holes all over that. That concrete's just deteriorating fast. So, questions? What's your plan? I guess, and maybe somebody else can answer that.
We're going to yield to Emmett as road agent and fire chief. I think he covers both bases here. As soon as he has a clean line.
So to answer Mr. Collins's question, and so the rest of you folks know what's going on at the safety building, the select board, I've been working with the select board in Dana, and they have some money. They can tell you where it's coming from. I am working on getting them a quote on what it cost, and working with GMI Asphalt to get a quote from them, and some other paving companies to get their quote, and getting things together, and that's going to happen. The safety building parking lot's going to happen when the roads are unposted and we can get back to work, unless I'm speaking out of turn.
Nope, that's why the budget's there.
So, yeah, come spring when the roads break. I mean, it's just, and I'm gonna step out of line here just a little bit and I might get spanked. But the roads are posted. I'm a subcontractor to the town. There's plenty of work to be done on the roads, but my stuff's parked because I can't do things I don't feel it's right to travel the town roads when I say you can't have a refrigerator delivered to your house, or you can't get a load of gravel delivered to your house. So my stuff's parked. It will be on the road tonight when I have to plow snow, or if one of these folks call and say my road's muddy and I can't get home, then we have to travel the roads to fix it. But we don't take advantage of the posted roads.
Are there any other questions or comments on warrant Article 3, the budget?
Call the question.
Seeing none, I'll read it because it has been amended. So Article 3 reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,651,900 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately, and we do need a majority vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so the warrant has been adopted.
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we restrict reconsideration of this article.
So the motion to restrict reconsideration has been made by Mr. Collins and seconded by Ms. Nudd. Reminder, that means that it cannot come up again later in this meeting. So if you vote in favor of restricting reconsideration, that is now in force for the year, and we will not discuss it later in the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it has been restricted. Thank you. We're going to move on now to Article number 4. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $364,500 to be added to the following established capital reserve funds under RSA 35:1. A majority vote is required on this. Medical equipment, $6,000. Fire department air packs, $20,000. Emergency apparatus, $65,000. Fire department mobile communications, $10,000. Police cruiser, $21,000. Highways and roads, $125,000. Bridge culvert improvements, $75,000. Public safety building, $5,000. Town hall improvements, $5,000. Town office equipment, $5,000. Webster Hopkinton Transfer Station, $4,000. Fire department dry hydrant repairs, $2,000. Fire department bunker gear, $2,500. Highway equipment, $7,500. Police equipment, $1,500. Highway land building fund, $10,000. This article is recommended by the select board by a vote of 3-0, and the motion to bring it to the floor today is made by Dee Blake, and it's been seconded by Marlo Herrick. And Dee, I believe you have a few comments
Yes.
to make on this.
Yes. This is, we try to do the capital reserve funds every year, so we have money in the bank to, if we need any of this equipment, we won't have a big bill saying we're gonna buy a police cruiser in 1 year and having all that. We should have all the money ready, and so it does not affect our tax rate.
Perfect. Are there any questions or comments regarding this warrant article, number 4? If you could please come up to the mic.
Thomas McWilliams, Deer Meadow Road. So I know we're not to Article number 8 yet, but Article number 8 specifically talks about purchasing a police cruiser and related equipment. So my question is, how does that relate to the item in number 4 where it says police cruiser 21,000?
We put that money in a capital reserve fund. So when we take it out, if it's the next article, so we will purchase the police cruiser using the capital reserve funds that we have. We already have money in a capital reserve for police cruiser. So it shouldn't come out extra, the big $37,000 more out of just for one item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on Article 4?
I'd like to just add a small point of clarity for that. As mentioned, we're putting it and then taking it out of the capital reserve fund. In the majority of cases, the select board is the agent to expend, or the ones that can officially say we'd like to spend the reserve fund or the trust fund to do this specific thing. In the case of the police cruiser, we are not the agents to expend, the town vote is. So that's why you see it as a separate warrant article when we have that cruiser purchase out of there. Thank you.
Any other questions on the warrant article? Mr. Board, can you come to the mic, please? Again, we just want to make sure the live stream picks up your comments.
Mike Lorick, 588 White Plains Road. Just a quick question, what page is the capital reserves totals on? We're adding to it. We're adding to the capital reserves, just want to see what's in it now, what we're adding to it, what the total is.
So the comment was page 57, and it does have the report from the trustee of trust funds on page 57. Any other questions on this warrant? You ready to vote? Okay, so the warrant article is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $364,500 to be added to the capital reserve funds under RSA 35:1 as read earlier. So the list is still intact. All in favor of approving this, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it's another unanimous vote and it's approved. We're going to move on to Article number 5. Number 5 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $226,000 to be added to the following established expendable trust funds per RSA 31:10-A. A majority vote is required. Road preservation, $200,000. Technology fund, $5,000. Forest fire, $2,000. Department equipment, $5,000. I'm sorry, it's fire department equipment, $5,000. Highway, $5,000. Legal for the town of Webster, $1,000. Compensated absences, $1,000. Municipal property maintenance, $5,000. Welfare, $1,000. And police vehicle maintenance, $1,000. This article is recommended by the select board by a vote of 3-0. And bringing it to the floor today, we have Marlo making the motion, and it's being seconded by Dave Hemingway. Marlo, it's yours to comment on it.
You do see an increase of $88,000 from last year, and that has to do with that some of the money has been moved from one fund to another, as this is expendable trust, so this is more for different things that pop up.
Can't hear you.
Oh, it looks like it.
Hi. Now I don't remember what I said. There is an increase from last year of 88,000. Be that some of it is in another fund, because expandable is more or less something that may pop up, if there's unexpected costs. And then there were some places that we saved money.
Are there any questions on warrant Article 5? Tom?
Thomas McWilliams again. Two-part question. How many police vehicles are we maintaining with $1,000?
Chief, how many police vehicles do we have currently? 3.
I feel that's far too low. I can't do it with my one vehicle, so I don't know how he's going to do it with 3. I think the number's too low.
Chief, do you want to just speak to that? Because I'm assuming you have some budget for maintenance.
That goes to the expendable trust fund, so that's if we have a unexpected damage from other.
Yeah, I'll wait for him to come up and say that in the mic, but what he was starting to say, this is the expendable trust fund, it's not the normal budget. This is in case we go over budget, and so this can handle that.
This is the expendable trust fund, so should we lose a transmission in a cruiser, and it costs us $7,000 to replace it, and we don't have enough in our regular budget to pay for it, that's where this money comes from. So you have regular... We have regular maintenance budget, yes. That answer your question?
I'm just curious, what is the regular maintenance budget? I just want to make sure it's high enough, that's all.
I believe we have enough. We've been good all the years going through. We've been lucky that we haven't had to take from the reserve fund at all. We have 2,500. And we have 2 vehicles that are fairly new, and if we replace this one, which I'll explain later, the reason why we need to. Are there other questions on warrant Article 5? Are you ready to vote? So the question in front of you is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $226,000 to be added to the established expendable trust funds per RSA 31:10-A, and I've read to you the list. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that motion also carries. And we're going to move on to Article number 6. Article number 6, to see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year under the provisions of RSA 31:98-A for unanticipated expenses that may arise and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,954 to put into the fund. This sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. This is an individual warrant article. Majority vote is required, and the Select Board is recommending it by a vote of 3-0. The motion is being brought to the floor today by D. Blake, and it's going to be seconded by Marlowe. And they've asked Dana to speak to this article. So Dana Hadley, our town administrator.
This has been on the warrant for the past several years. It is allowed by the state to use 1% of the operating budget minus the amortization for loans. The amortization for loans is $42,000 this year, which is your last bond payment on the public safety building. Congratulations. And as stated in the article, it comes out of the fund balance and does not impact the tax rate. I will make the comment that with the change in the operating budget, if someone wanted to change this, you now could appropriate $16,099, which I don't think there's much difference, but there you go.
Further comments or questions on the contingency warrant article number 6? Are you ready to vote? All in favor of adopting warrant article 6 as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that also is adopted unanimously. We're going to move on to article 7 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to help offset the cost of the bond for funds to repair dam, passed at the Pillsbury Lake Water District meeting held on August 5th, 2006. A majority vote is required. The Select Board is also recommending this by a 3-0 vote. And bringing it to the floor today is Board Member D. Blake, and it's being seconded by Dave Hemingway, and D is going to speak to the what's now known as the dam warrant article.
And for people that haven't been in Webster since 2006, the dam at Pillsbury Lake, we had a lot of water and it broke. So we're helping Pillsbury Lake pay for that, and we've been giving them $10,000 every year. And it's only, I think there's like 2 years left. How many?
26.
26, okay. 2026.
Not 26.
No. So this is, and it was amazing when the dam went out. I can say, I never knew Pillsbury Lake was so shallow until I saw the water going. Anyway, so we've been doing it for years.
Questions or comments on warrant article 7? Are you ready to vote? All in favor of approving the dam warrant article as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to article number 8. To see if the, Mr. Fanjoy.
Roy Android, I'd like to restrict article number 4, 5, and 6, and 7.
A motion to restrict reconsideration on 4, 5, 6, and 7, made by Mr. Fanjoy, seconded by Mr. Collins. All in favor of restricting reconsideration, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we have restricted all of those articles also. Moving on to number 8. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $37,000 for the purchase of a 2022 police cruiser and related equipment, with $37,000 to come from the Police Cruiser Capital Reserve Fund created for that purpose. This is a special warrant article. Majority vote is required, and the Select Board is recommending it by a vote of 3-0. It's being brought to the floor today by Board Member Hemingway and seconded by Board Member Herrick. And they have asked Chief Steve Adams to please speak to the warrant article and the need for the cruiser. Chief?
So we have 3 police cruisers. The one that we're hopefully getting rid of is a 2016. It's got 115,818 miles as of this morning. But it also has 3,777 hours of idle time. According to Ford, at 32 miles per hour, that gives us 120,884 miles added to the mileage. So now the vehicle actually has 236,682 miles on it. It does not make it a viable car. I mean, we have had engine problems with it. The lights are on now. It's time to replace it. If we get a new car this year, we will skip buying a car next year because we'll have 3 cars that are all fairly new with low mileage on them. So we'll skip a year from buying a cruiser next time. Are there questions regarding warrant Article 8, the police cruiser warrant article? Are you ready to vote? So all in favor of approving warrant Article 8 as read, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion also carries. Congratulations. And now we're up to warrant Article 9. This is a motion to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of ongoing restoration and painting of the old meeting house. And this was submitted by petition. I believe Mr. Kimball is making the motion. And I believe it's being seconded by Barbara Corliss. And now it's on the floor. Mr. Kimball, would you like to speak to it?
Mark Kimball, Mutton Road. Just want to make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about, the old meeting house, and I won't be greasing any poles today. Okay. So I've been on the committee for a few years. It's a great group of people, all pushing for the same thing, which is to preserve history for the town. It's a hard-working group of people, hundreds of hours, and I think we're making the right movement to help preserve the old meeting house. I think the old meeting house is that hidden gem in Webster in the state of New Hampshire. There's a lot of history there. It's where the town meetings started for this town. It's democracy, it's the purest form. You know, sometimes we forget, but I think when you walk in that building and you see the old artifacts and you walk upstairs and you sit in the pews, you really get a good feeling of what this town was back then and what it is now. I think it's important that we preserve this building. I hope you agree.
Any other comments? Ms. Corliss?
Hi, I'm Barbara Corliss, Deer Meadow Road. I am a trustee and treasurer of the Webster Historical Society. I hope everybody's picked up our handout. We've illuminated every corner we can in 4 pages. I just want to ask for your vote for this. 5,000 is not that much. It's actually our get out of bed in the morning amount for an annual, to pay for all of our expenses. Our utilities and insurance are roughly $5,000 a year. So everything else that we have, that we do, which would include the digital archives, which is an amazing source. The information there is being used by the town of Webster. Dana Hadley tells me he's been looking for old meeting minutes, such as this meeting, which will be in the archives and available for future use. That's all in the digital archives, all the town reports. There are minutes of meeting, oh, I already said that. Photos, stories, actually there's diaries of old people in Webster, I love them. We have also started last year a genealogy website, and it's been documenting the cemeteries of Webster. If you are buried in Webster, you're going to get a free genealogy. Right now, it's not complete. It's not. We haven't got everybody in the cemetery documented, but the reports that are coming out right now help the Cemetery Commission to know who's buried in what cemetery. We have lists of veterans, so you know what veterans flag goes on their grave on Memorial Day. This goes all the way back to the Revolution and even French and Indian Wars and King Philip's War. If we have that information, I'm putting it in there and I've got it as a report so that you can get a list of all of our veterans and what they were involved in. I'm also putting in historical people. We have had cabinet makers that have made national news. We have inventors, there's authors, of course, Coffin, who wrote The History of Boscawen, one of the many Buxton. All of those people, as I find them, I'm noting them in there. So you can just go run a report that says these are the historical people of Webster, all out of the genealogy website. But I want to say mostly that the meeting house is rare, very rare. It is the only surviving meeting house in the Upper Merrimack Valley that still essentially retains its original form and function. It is a meeting house. It hasn't been converted to a barn or somebody's house. This year it is 231 years old. So I want to thank you, all of you, for supporting the Historical Society and the Gem of Webster. And I'm asking for your vote on Article 9. Questions? Ooh, I said too much maybe.
Are there other comments or people who would like to speak to warrant Article 9?
Hi, I'm Carol Young. I live on Potash Road. I am the curator now of the meeting house. And it's not just important that we save the meeting house, but it's important that we save our stories, because things without stories aren't anything. We have great stories in Webster, but how do we get those out to everyone? When, like you said, we have this great database for the cemeteries. Back in the 80s, people were thoughtful enough to go ahead and record histories of their families. So eventually, you'll be able to go to the website for the cemeteries and actually listen to some of these people tell their own stories. We also have a bunch of artifacts that need to be taken care of. And if anybody has any interest in history, I would certainly encourage you to step up. But I'm asking for your support to continue this work, because it is important that these things survive. Because as we look, yes, we're headed for tough times now. In this country, we've been in tough times before, and there's lessons for the past, I think, that we can apply to our future. Thank you.
And additional comments, Allison?
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Allison Beezerman. I've lived in town for 46 years. I know a lot of history. I'm also a trustee. Oh, sorry. I'm a trustee on the old meeting house. Right now, we are doing a fundraiser. It's called the Virtual Silent Auction. It ends tonight at 7 o'clock. And I just wanted to do a last-minute plug. I hope everybody logs on and makes a bid, and we raise some money for our restoration project. I'll put these over here if you'd like to see.
Thank you for your hard work, Allison.
Are there any other questions on warrant article number 9? Are you ready to vote? Yes. So all in favor of warrant article 9 on the old meeting house as read, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Another unanimous vote. Well done. That brings us to warrant article number 10. And warrant article 10 is to transact any other business that may legally come before the meeting. And I know, Sally, you had asked to take a second. So I'm going to ask Sally with the beautiful blue scarf to come right up to comment to the town. And then anybody else who would like to make a comment to town meeting, please hop online and be ready to do so after Sally.
The beautiful blue scarf you may recognize. Coming up in April, April 22nd, Earth Day, is the traditional time that we do our roadside cleanup. This will be our 9th year, and I recognize a lot of people here who've been helping out all these years. Thank you so much. I'd like to give a special shout out to Michelle Tremblay and Steve
Landry,
who last year actually got a collapsible cart they took around and picked up trash all over town, including on Battle Street, which we don't usually do. So the town is really looking terrific. Before the black fly season starts, it's a good time, and hopefully not so many ticks either. If you will join us in this project that's been sponsored by the Conservation Commission to go around, pick a route in your area, and just check out roadside trash. Because every spring we see it, bottles, cans, it's pretty bad. And Webster's really doing a great job. I'm always impressed because I look at the roadsides and think, oh dear, here we go again. I have some blue bags with me today. And anyone who's anxious to get started, come up right after. I also have 2 boxes, and we can really do a great job. I did want to mention that people are concerned about litter. I mean, this is something that happens in New England, but other states have high penalties, fines, and New Hampshire doesn't. Apparently, if you get picked up, and 62 is the maximum fine. And there have been bills in the legislature just recently to increase the fines, and maybe the money could go to the Fish and Game Department, which is always underfunded. It's dear to my heart, Fish and Game Department. And this bill is stuck in the legislature. It won't come up to the full House. But the argument was that there wasn't enough money. It would cost $75,000 just to make the changes to the legislation and the implementation of it. And yet that could be done pretty quickly if we raise the money. So just something in the legislature. I can give people the bill numbers and we can go from there. But I want to thank everybody who has participated, and I hope you'll join us in April with roadside cleanup.
The date again, Sally?
Well, I'm saying traditionally we started on April 22nd, which is Earth Day. And actually you can get started right now as soon as it stops raining. So thank you all.
Thank you, Sally. And we appreciate all you do to organize this. Next up, we have Kim Fortune coming to the mic. Chris Shadler coming to the mic.
Hi, I'm Chris Shadler, Tyler Road. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Sally was saying, we're going to have a box in a plastic bin available on the back side of the building filled with these trash bags. And so we decided that all of the month of April should be enjoyed picking up trash. And it's so fun, though, really. The thing is, poison ivy is everywhere out there too, so make sure that you know what poison ivy looks like when it's not in leaf. Or, if you don't want to do that, just wear gloves. It's a really good precaution, okay? Thank you very much for helping out.
Thank you, Chris. Kim? If anyone else is hoping to speak after Kim, you can hop right online.
Kim Fortune, Tyler Road. I'd just like to make a statement that I'm in hopes that any and all public funding that has in fact been appropriated here today, that is being appropriated and prior to distribution, making sure that from the board's perspective, as well as their opinion and beyond, that each and every entity is not only in state statute compliance, but also in best management practices compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. I see nobody else at the mic, so at this point, I will take a motion to dissolve the 2022 annual business meeting of the town of Webster. That motion's made by Dan Nudd and seconded by Julie Nudd. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? I declare that the meeting is dissolved. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Elected officials, please come up front for an oath of office. Elected officials up front, please.
I got my 15 million. Yeah. You're a taxpayer.